So I cleaned up my piece I cut out of my friend's parts Jeep. I went through and did a little bit of removal of the old undercoating around the edges just to start cleaning it up. And what I'm going to do to overlap this is I'm going to come in here, and this little metal strip right here is part of the old frame rail there. And I went ahead and cut extra because I want to have as much as I can to overlap. But it's 2 layers thick, it's got some weird curves. I'm going to remove this. This is spot welded on. So you can see there's these little divots going down here, and that's part of the reason I removed the undercoating on it, was to see these divots. So each one of these is a spot weld. So it's 2 layers of metal that have been brought together, and then at one point it's had a welder pincher come down and weld them together. Now, I can get rid of this stuff, I can get it out of the way relatively easily. I got to do a couple things. I'm going to take my punch, a center punch, I'm going to put it down on the center of the spot weld, and I'm going to tap it with a hammer. All right? The other way I can do this is with a spring-loaded punch, which goes down, and it's supposed to pop in and make a nice click, and it'll make that punch point. This one's worn out. That happens. So I'm going to do it with a manual punch and a hammer, about the same. And then I'm going to come in with a spot weld cutting tool on a drill, and that'll cut through the area around that spot weld and allow me to pull off this metal strip. So to come up a little bit closer and let you see what I got, this here is one of these spot welds. All right, here's another one, here's another one. So there are these little round spots. So you can see where the center of the circle is here now that I've removed all that undercoating. So I'm going to put the point of, pretend this is my punch, I'm going to put the point of my punch right in the center, hold it there, and then with my other hand, I'm going to come in and whack it with the hammer. Now when I do that, that gives a point for this spot weld cutter to sit on. So the spot weld cutter has this spring-loaded center, all right, this nice little point. And what it does is it allows me, when I put that little punch divot in there, it allows this to keep centered as I'm screwing it in with the drill. So I screw this in with the drill, all right, and then I'll cut through that area of the spot weld there. So that's the gist of it. I'm not going to do that in super detail, but I'll just go ahead and run this as a quick time lapse and we'll get through this. All right, I got my punch, my hammer. I'm going into the center as best I can tell of this guy. Now I've got a centering pin. I'll do this one as well. Pretty easy. This should work. It doesn't, but that helps. If you're doing a whole lot of them, go through and put a Sharpie dot at the very middle of them when you get started, and then that'll just make it a little bit quicker to go through and whack, 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 whack them all like whack-a-mole. So I'm going to keep whacking these, and then I'll drill them out. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I'll go get the drill. All right, I've prepped my old floor here. I went through, cut out all the rusty old metal, so I got a nice clean hole without Swiss cheese, jaggedy stuff. So I got this cleaned up. I've got my new bit all cleaned up. All right, I've got nice bare metal the whole way around. So this is ready to go. I've trimmed it nicely. I set it over here around a Sharpie around this hole so they could mark the bottom side, and I'd know, kind of how much I needed to trim off. It sits down real nice. We've gone back and forth a couple times. It's going to fit into here real good. Now, instead of welding it, I decided I wanted to try something I've been thinking about for a while, and I've seen other people do and body shops use, which is using an adhesive for a panel repair. So in this case, we're just going to straight up use our urethane glue. This urethane is basically the same thing that your windshield is glued in with. It's really tough stuff. It's actually really hard to cut through. So it's plenty strong for this. And even if we welded this, we'd be going back over with this same urethane to make a seam seal. So I'm going to go ahead and do my bead of urethane all around here. Squish this down. I'll put something heavy on it to hold it down, and that's going to seal everything up. I might come back through the second pass to make sure to get both on the inside and the outside that both seams have been sealed up. You know, lots of extra is what I'm going for here, and I just want it to squish down. So I'm going to start squeezing this stuff out. It is really nice and thick, so if it's cold, you probably want to warm it up. We got 75-degree days right now, so this is pretty warm. You can warm it up even more, and it makes it really easy to squeeze out. But temperature does affect this. Also, urethanes cure off of water, so the more humid it is, the quicker these are going to set up. Which also means that if I put this down, I don't want to immediately seal it over with Por 15, because then humidity won't get down into here and allow this stuff to properly cure. So definitely make sure it can get air, it can breathe, it can get that moisture out of the air, even to the point sometimes you'll squirt on a little bit of water around to help that suck in and cure it. So here I go. It's already been squirting out here. So I'm just going to lay down a nice thick bead. So I've got quite a bit on. I can use the nozzle to kind of help smooth it out if I got any areas that aren't as consistent. I was a little thin along here, so I'll come back in and just try to lay down a little bit more on top of it all. I definitely, like in the ribs that are along here, I want to squeeze a little bit more around to make sure those seal. And this will continue to ooze a little bit, so I'm going to go set it out and put some plastic around the end so it kind of spurts into there. I'll take the pressure off, but it's going to keep coming out, so I want to put something there to keep it clean. And okay, so I got that all there. I'm going to take my panel and carefully bring it down. I'll kind of squish a little bit, move it back and forth, kind of really work that in. And my panel's going down in there. I need to put something heavy on it to hold it, and then I'm going to come back through and make sure I get good seam sealer on the top. but it's going in place. All right, so there's a couple of dead blow hammers. So, some places where it's a little thin on coverage, like up at the front, it's a little thin. Through here, it's a little thin. I'll have to move those hammers. Maybe a little bit back over there. I'm just gonna go ahead and squeeze down some more on top. A little bit more along there. Now, as long as you keep this tube kind of sealed up in the end, like put it down in a Ziploc or something, you can cut off the last little bit and reuse it later. So if I have some left over, I can keep it for the future. Okay, I've gotten a lot of that around. Take the pressure back off. Now, I'm going to use some paint sticks to smooth this around on the top side. So these are handy. You get a bunch of gunk on, you just snap them off and keep going. So I can go in here and just squeeze down, and I can get a little extra and kind of work it back for an area that didn't have as much. See, and I'm able just to smooth it over. So I'm able to smooth it down so it's not such a giant bead, and I'm able to also help press it in there, because we really want it to squeeze down into every void we can, because we don't want any voids, any open areas where water can get in and then therefore rust. So I'm just pushing along. It smells awesome, like absolutely. It smells like I'm getting high right now. Okay. All right, it's pretty good back there. Keep my weight on it, but moving back a little bit. I'm gonna go up to the front. I can tell it's starting to set up a little bit, but it's still plenty liquid. All right, so I've got pretty good coverage in here. All right, so that's good. I've got a lot in on the top. This is definitely well sealed in here. I got my weight on it. It's in place where it needs to be. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom side now, working above my head and trying not to let it fall on my face, because even though I've sealed it here, I still have that lip down there where it's open. So I need to make sure that this is sealed. Otherwise, water can work its way up in and start rusting in between those areas. Now, eventually it would do that and it would work its way on in and rust all of this, but I've at least done it here. So any water from the top isn't going to get into that seam to rust it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, get that nicely smoothed out, and then take a couple of pictures, videos, so you can see what it looks like when it's finally done, because we just can't get the camera down below at the same time as I'm working there.